Hello, Bulldog Nation. I'm Gardner-Webb University President Dr. Bill Downs, and this is episode 4 of First Downs. First Downs is our chance to introduce you to some people who make Gardner-Webb University so special and who make Gardner-Webb University so great. And today we are in Blanton Auditorium inside historic Hamrick Hall on the campus of Gardner-Webb University. And on today's program, we're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about the power of music. We're going to talk about the relationship between music and history. And we're going to hear about some very special international travel by the Gardner-Webb University Concert Choir. And to get our conversation started, we get to meet Dr. Josh Cheney.
How are you today, sir?
I'm well. Hope you are.
Absolutely.
Dr. Josh Cheney has been Director of Choral Activities at Gardner-Webb University since 2020. Let's help our viewers get to know you a little bit better. What was your path to Gardner-Webb?
I have kind of had a wandering path to Gardner-Webb. I'm a native North Carolinian. I was born and raised in Fayetteville, North Carolina, but also have a lot of family in Appalachia and Jackson County specifically. Went to school here in North Carolina before studying in Georgia and Louisiana. I am a former North Carolina Department of Public Instruction music educator. Also have spent a lot of time working in music ministry in churches here in North Carolina and in Georgia and in Louisiana. And I am proud to say that this is my 5th year as Director of Choral Activities at Gardner-Webb.
Walk us back to that decision early in life when you said, I'm going to devote my career to music education.
You know, sir, I have always been a musician. It has been a thing that has been a part of who I am since from the very beginning. My mother used to be surprised that I remembered every single word to all the country songs on 95.7 WKML in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I didn't realize that that was kind of a big deal back then. But when I graduated high school, I really knew that there was only one path for me. And after initially studying for a career in performance, either as a professional clarinetist or as a rock and roll superstar, I encountered the experience and just had the experiences with my faculty at Campbell and went through a whole lot of experiences that let me know that, oh my gosh, what they have given me, what I have experienced here is what I want to do for people, and specifically what I want to do for people in North Carolina. And I knew after experiencing graduate school that I wanted to do that in higher education. And so that led me to pursuing a doctorate in choral conducting at Louisiana State and setting me up to be here at Gardner-Webb just a few years later.
Still secretly harbor those ambitions to be a rock and roll superstar?
Absolutely.
There you
Absolutely.
go. All right, there's always a chance. All right, so we're still at the beginning of the front end of a new academic year here at Gardner-Webb. What's your goal each year as you begin working with a new group of college students in a choral group?
You know, my goal every single year with Gardner-Webb Choirs is to take one positive step forward, to assess where we ended the previous year and find out how we can make good for our new singers, for our second years and third years and fourth years, for the community here on campus, for the community in Cleveland County, and really even for the community in North Carolina. What are the steps that we need to take to set ourselves up for success so that, number one, our students get the education that they deserve and that they are paying for here on campus, and that we also, I take very seriously our responsibility as artists and as musicians to make joy, to be the harbingers of good things, of happiness, of celebration, and even when people might need to lament, or the opposite side of that coin. We are a vehicle by which people can do that, and so I want to provide an experience where our students can learn how to be educators, how to be ministers, how to be musicians in the professional space, but also to provide just what art does, specifically what choral music does for humanity that's within our reach here at Gardner-Webb.
So sometimes opportunity knocks, and opportunity knocked for you and our concert choir not too long ago. Walk us through how Gardner-Webb University got connected with the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion.
So it's kind of a simple story, really, in that it starts that the choral music world is small. There's a man whose name is Dr. James Metters. He is the artistic director of Vox Anima London, who are a professional performing arts organization based in London in the United Kingdom. Jamie is an American man who married an English woman, and so he lives and works in the UK now, but he is a student of a gentleman called Dr. John Dixon. Jamie studied with John back in the day, if you will, at the Southern Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. I went on to study with John at Louisiana State University. And so Jamie and I are of the same conducting tree, which is a word that we like to use in our branch of the world. And so I knew Jamie through my connections with Dr. Dixon. And Jamie reached out back in 2022 after I'd been here at Gardner-Webb for a couple of years and said, hey, when are you planning your first international experience? That was something that I and some of the other folks in choirs here at Gardner-Webb had been talking about. And so when Jamie presented us a number of opportunities, we saw the one with the 80th anniversary at D-Day in France and knew that right there looks like something that might be interesting to our community. In fact, we even polled the students who were here at the time, and that was the most popular choice. And so knowing that I'd be able to work with a friend and colleague in Dr. Metters, as well as something that was inviting and intriguing to our population, that's how we got hooked up with those folks.
So that started in 22. You
Yes,
had
sir.
a couple of years of prep work.
Yes,
Walk
sir.
us through what it took to get ready for that, fundraising, all of the logistics.
So that really for us starts with laying out the interest to the students, getting it worked out with the school for how we're going to build that academically, how we're going to build that structurally. We worked with the Office of the Provost, we worked with the Office of Advancement, we worked with the Office of the President to make sure that all those things were set up functionally within Gardner-Webb. We worked every single day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and rehearsals 4 times a week and twice on Monday to make sure that our singers were growing and elevating in their ability and their performance ability so that we could walk out onto a stage in another country and represent ourselves well. And I would say that was genuinely a 2-year process to make sure that we were going from where we were to where we are now. And then finally, a huge part of that was working with Nate Evans in the Office of Advancement to make sure that we were able to find a way to fund our students to that trip. For 2 years, we tour every single spring. We are already set up to be touring in spring of 25 in a number of places in the foothills. But for 2 years, we traveled and raised money for that trip in churches across North Carolina, literally. We traveled in the West and in the East and everywhere in between. Raised a lot of money from very generous folks throughout North Carolina. Worked with Dr. Rice in the Department of Music and used his ability and honestly, in my opinion, his prowess to engage with folks and let them know about our mission here at Gardner-Webb, specifically through the vehicle of the Department of Music, and just put out our best product for 2 years in a row. And honestly, I learned a long time ago from some of my teachers that you don't have to defend good. And if I might pat our singers on the back, we've been doing good for a couple years, and folks believed in that. And so that's what allowed us to raise a lot of money to go to France.
A lot of work, a lot of generosity. So 80 years ago, the Americans landed at Omaha Beach on June 6, 1944. You guys arrived when, sang where, and to whom?
Oh my gosh. Well, I believe our dates of travel were June 9 to June 18. When Dr. Metters first built the experience, the plan was to try to be there during the actual anniversary. Just because of the logistics of all of that, they needed to shift it well before the trip actually happened to the week after, which was good. That made some of our accommodations and travel a lot easier, trying to situate a trip in between the 80th anniversary as well as the 2024 Olympics in Paris. Right. So we landed in Paris, spent a number of days there, and quite honestly, just got to hang out and do the Paris thing for a couple days. It was really great. Both the experiences like the Eiffel Tower and the Musée d'Orsay. A lot of the students went to Versailles. A lot of the students went and did other just kind of Paris things. We had a great time doing that. After a couple days in Paris, we took a bus trip over to Normandy. We stayed in a city called Caen, which is kind of the metropolitan heart of the region of Normandy. And that was our home base for a couple days. And we were able to travel to the beaches, see some of those places, which is always such an interesting experience for me to go to some place that is so legendary in history. Places like Omaha Beach, places like Gettysburg, where you go and it's a beach, or in the case of Gettysburg, it's a field. But you recognize how normalcy and ordinary places become legendary because of the acts of ordinary people. And at least for me, standing on the beach at Normandy, and I was blessed that both of my parents were able to go on that trip, both of whom are U.S. Army retired, and to be able to be there with them and to just take part in the history of the Western world, standing on a beach was pretty special.
Was there a goosebumps moment for you that you'll never forget?
For me, the most special thing is always our singers. It's our people, it's the students, it's the making music together. And I also, for me individually, had the incredible experience of, I am a 2012 graduate with the Master's of Music in Choral Conducting and Church Music from Mercer University. Mercer, which is in Macon, Georgia, also happened to go on this trip. And that was merely happenstance. And so, standing watching our singers here at Gardner-Webb sing with students at my alma mater under the direction of either myself or my friend and colleague and also mentor from Mercer, that was a mind-blowing experience. And singing at the American Cemetery in Normandy, singing both a few hymns as well as a piece of English music that we had prepared to sing together simply for the folk who were gathered there. That was just kind of a mind-boggling moment of, this is my real life, you know. When I went to Mercer in 2010, I would have never thought that 14 years later I'd be standing next to Stanley Roberts watching our students sing together and knowing that the lines of intention and excellence that have been placed within me are now growing in students here at Gardner-Webb.
So heading over there, what was your hope that the students would learn and or appreciate? And then coming back, do you think that that mission was achieved?
I wanted them to appreciate the diversity of the world around us. There were kids who got on that plane in Charlotte who not just had never been out of the United States, they'd never been on a plane before. I relished in the idea that they were going to get to have all of the mundane travel experiences of what it's like to get on a plane and go to another country, especially to a place where they majorly speak a different language, where they use a different currency, where they were going to have to deal with time change, where they were going to get to be a part of something different than they had gotten to be a part of before, and appreciate the beauty, not just of the history of France, but of France now, and the beauty of the people there. And to see them interact with each other and with those people was an awesome thing. Choir tour is an incredibly unique, at least in my experience, is an incredibly unique experience where folks grow in relationship, they grow in community, and they are able to almost come into contact on a more spiritual level by making music together, by living that travel experience 24/7 together, and knowing that riding home, that I could look at their faces and know that that had happened for them, and that I was even a part of facilitating that. I really looked forward to that, and that absolutely did happen. I think our students grew in community together. They were able to, they were definitely able to have those mundane travel experiences. Our day home was a typical day home from across the ocean, where you're standing in some flight lobby somewhere, and everybody's dazed and confused, and having to read signs in a different language to make sure that you get on the right plane and go down the right hallway. And I think sometimes I really revel in those very ordinary things, because those are sometimes the most beautiful moments that people remember, sitting on the bus, riding home, and those things definitely happened.
So what is next? Where would you like to see the choir go next? Or perhaps you've already got it planned out?
We were talking about it the other day, and we got a couple different things. In mind. Some of them are on this side of the pond. Some of them are on that side of the pond. Some of them are, instead of over, we thought maybe we might go down instead.
There you go.
And so those feelers are certainly out. And I think that, if I may say so myself, our trip to France was a resounding success. And I cannot wait to build on top of that for the folks who are here now, for the folks who will be here then. I think Gardner-Webb Choir is going in the right direction.
That's exciting. So, for current Gardner-Webb students and for prospective Gardner-Webb students, if they want to get involved in the Gardner-Webb Concert Choir, how do they do it?
They should reach out to me via email, via Instagram. We're pretty active on Instagram with Gardner-Webb Choirs. All of the regular channels of Gardner-Webb communication. Reach out through your friends who are here with us now. We have a lot of singers from the Foothills community, from the Upstate community, from the Charlotte community, and we are very excited to continue to be a relevant entity in choral music in North and South Carolina. We've got plans. We want to sing at conferences. We want to go on trips in our local and our regional areas. And what we do is sing. What we do is perform. We put ourselves out in front of people to have a good time, to make music together, and to celebrate living and singing. And so if you want to be a part of that, come get with us because we're moving.
Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you for your leadership on this. Thank you for your mastermind putting this all together and making it all come to fruition. We are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk to two of the students who went on the trip to Normandy. But first, I have to ask you, how's your French? Can you take us to break in French?
Au revoir.
À plus tard. À bientôt. Après cette publicité. We'll be right back. See you in a few. All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 4 of First Downs. And I'm now joined by choir member and Gardner-Webb student, Za'Kia Hamilton. Za'Kia is a junior from Lincolnton, North Carolina. She's a music education major with an emphasis in contemporary worship. She loves music, dance, and theater, and engaging in worship opportunities. Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right. Za'Kia, welcome. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Before we talk about your experience on the trip to France, tell us why you chose to attend Gardner-Webb University.
I did a year at App State after I graduated high school, and I just didn't find the community that I wanted music-wise at App State. I come from a very small high school, and App State is a big school, and so for me, it was a little bit more of feeling like a little fish in a big pond. And I come from a very small hometown as well, so it was a little bit overwhelming. And I didn't know if I wanted to even continue with college at all. But after my second semester there over the summer, I did a lot of thinking and I did a lot of praying, and I was back home. And I started exploring my options a little bit more and came across Gardner-Webb again, came and auditioned for the music program, and ever since my audition for the music program, the atmosphere has been very welcoming from the very moment that I walked on campus. I absolutely love the atmosphere here. I love all my friends. I love all my teachers and professors. So it has definitely been an amazing experience.
Awesome. We're glad to have you in the Webb. Why did you choose music education?
I have always known that I wanted to be a teacher, but it wasn't until my senior year of high school that I knew that it was music. Getting through COVID, which was a really hard time, music was a big outlet for me. And being in choir in high school, my choir director made it his job to continue to push us even through COVID times to be able to consistently and continue to make music. So while everyone else was probably doing, worksheets and things of that nature, we were on Zoom trying our best to sing our hearts out every second that we got. And the impact that he made on my life and the impact that music made, just really wanted to be able to explore the option of being able to teach music and teach students how to use the outlet of music to kind of get through hard times like music was for me. And so I've grown to love music so much over the years, and I cannot wait to be able to teach students in the future.
Students in what grade? Have you already mapped that
I
out?
have not decided yet. I don't really like music in the elementary level, although I love the elementary level kid age. High schoolers scare me a little bit, so I think we're leaning a little bit more to middle school, but as I get more experience in the classrooms before I graduate and with student teaching, hopefully we'll be able to decide what grade we want to go to pretty soon.
Awesome. It'll all fall into place.
Yes.
So did you ever imagine, after making that decision to transfer to Gardner-Webb, that you'd be studying music education and preparing to go on a trip to France?
Absolutely not. The French trip that we took last summer was not only my first time out of the country, but also my first time on a plane. And
How'd you do?
I did better than I think I thought I was gonna do.
Would the people sitting beside you agree?
Yeah, I think so. The first takeoff probably was the worst of it because of, taking off and like the experience of that and the shakiness of the plane. But after we got through that, I was pretty good. The 8-hour plane ride that we took, I slept through most of that, and everything else was pretty fun.
How would you describe first impressions of the French culture?
Very different than what we experience over here. The language, first of all, I do not speak a lick of French. And so that was a little bit of a barrier that we had to get through. But France was also pretty busy.
Lot going on.
Yes, very, very busy. And at times it was overwhelming, but in other times it was actually very interesting to see kind of how life goes on in France and the comparison of how life goes on here. But the busyness of, there's always something going on. There's always people traveling. There's always people, on the streets going through the little markets and things of that nature. It was very interesting to see and watch, for sure.
How did you prepare yourself for that trip? Not just the singing, but the international experience.
I tried to do a little bit of Duolingo with the French speaking. It was a little to less successful, but it was okay. We definitely were able to communicate and get the conversation that we needed while we were at France. I'm also a pretty outgoing person when I want to be, and so being able to interact with certain people when we did go to the stores and to learn a little bit about the French culture when we did go to restaurants and tried French food and things of that nature was also really good. So the anxious side, I feel like I had to kind of every morning kind of take deep breaths before we went out and to interact with other people. But as far as being able to be in the French culture, I think I was prepared more and definitely just with the interaction with people and things of that nature as well.
Favorite meal? Did you try escargot?
No, I did not, but we had this duck on this cruise ship that we had a chance to be able to go on while we were in Paris, and it was absolutely divine, and the sauce that they had on the duck was top tier.
They enjoy their meals.
Yes.
They do enjoy their
Yes.
meals. So we spoke about this a little bit off camera, and I promised to only ask you one or two questions about it. But how did the trip to Normandy change your perspective on World War II and your understanding of history?
I think first walking on to the beaches where most of the action happened and just being able to be on the land and in the presence, I think was very breathtaking to see first the sight and the view, but also when you start to think about all of the things that happened on that ground and you take into consideration, I'm standing here, like I'm here. It's very, it was a lot to take in for a lot of people, including myself. But I also think another thing was being able to sing at the place that we did in remembrance of all of these people was another emotional level as well. Singing is one of my biggest passions, and so being able to sing was a very, great thing, but to be able to sing and know what I was singing about and know the dedication that I was singing those songs to and the lives that were, fought and, changed because of that, really put into perspective for me that I should be grateful for a lot more things than I take into consideration for everyday life.
Did the Gardner-Webb Choir, did the members of the choir have a chance to choose the songs, or the songs given to us? How did that all work?
We did not get to choose the songs, but we did perform the requiem that we performed in Normandy for our spring requiem set list.
Okay.
And so the music was very familiar to us. We actually, during the springtime, got to perform that set list with another group that traveled to Normandy as well. under the direction of so many different people. And so I think knowing the music kind of before getting there was a lot, it made the learning process a lot faster. And so we were less worried about learning the music a little bit and more focused on like the experience of actually being in France, which I think helped a lot, just for the enjoyment and the experience of actually being there, and less on kind of learning the music and cramming in learning it in the day and a half that we had to practice with everybody.
Got to live the moment.
Yes.
You got to remember the moment. If there was one moment that you will always remember and tell your grandchildren one day, what's that moment?
Since I was a little girl, have always been in love with the Eiffel Tower. And so after the cruise ship, we got off the ship, and it was right in front of the Eiffel Tower, and we actually stood there for a little bit, and we got to see the Eiffel Tower light up from top to bottom. And when I tell you that that was one of the most amazing experiences, not only for me now, but for little me, to be able to experience that as well. I mean, it was beautiful. The lighting, the background, everything, being able to stand there and experience with so many of my friends and, people that I get to make music with. And, some of these people I know for a fact will be in my wedding when I get older. So just being able to stand there with so many different people that I've made connections with over the year and a half that I've been here to experience that site, it was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
A bond that will last a lifetime. How do you think, in a broader sense, how do you think the trip changed who you are or how you see yourself in the world?
Well, like I said, that was my first time being outside of the country, and I don't have a lot of family members that can say that they have been outside of the country like I've been able to. And so with that being my first experience, and I have had that experience, and people that are like 40, 50 years old has not had that experience that are in my family, I am forever grateful for every amount of money that was donated, for every person that was involved to make that trip possible for me. And I think, like I said in the beginning, it goes back to being grateful for the little things in life that we tend to forget about and overlook sometimes. And so gratitude is one of the big takeaways that I did take away from that trip as well.
So a few years from now, when you're teaching, do you think you will muster the dream of taking your students to France or somewhere else in the world for a trip like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I got that experience, not to go as far as France, but we went to Atlanta, Georgia when I was in choir for a competition. And even that, just giving those students the experience to be even that far from home, because a lot of kids don't get that experience coming from the families that they do. So being able to give that experience to some of my students absolutely would be a want, and something that I would like to accomplish in the future.
So last question, talking to maybe some students who are at another school or high school students who are thinking about where to study music education in college, make the pitch for Gardner-Webb.
Like I said, Gardner-Webb is a fantastic campus. It is absolutely beautiful in the springtime when the flowers are blooming. A lot of the professors are 100% for their students. They take the time to get to know their students personally, and a lot of teachers don't do that. But from Dr. Cheney to Dr. Rice to Dr. Johnson, I've had every single one of them as teachers, and every single one of them make it their mission to be able to say that they have made a lasting impact in their students' life and do everything that they can to make sure that we succeed and that we are prepared for the outside world, whether it's teaching, whether it's ministry, whether it's producing music, whatever it is. They 100% are for every single one of their students, and they make sure that we're prepared for the outside world. And so if you are looking for that intertwined, close-knit family connection, I definitely would recommend trying out Gardner-Webb for sure.
Za'Kia Hamilton, pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you. Nice.
You're going to be an awesome teacher one day.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back. right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the third of our three guests on episode 4 of First Downs. We get to now meet with choir member and Gardner-Webb student, Jadon Norman. Jadon,
Yep.
how you doing?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Jadon's a sophomore from Gastonia, North Carolina. Didn't have to go far to come
Not
to
too far.
Gardner-Webb. He's a music education major with primary emphasis in voice. He enjoys playing bass at church.
Yep.
Which church? Give a shout.
I play bass for a church in Gastonia. It's called Epic at Linwood.
Okay.
It's been there for 5 years. So.
All right. He enjoys that, spending time with family, and hitting the gym.
Oh yeah.
Trying to show us up. Okay. All right. I'll ask you the same question I asked Za'Kia to start off. Why'd you choose Gardner-Webb?
Gardner-Webb was actually one of my first choices. Bessemer City was where I went to school, and it always been a small school environment, and Gardner-Webb just fit in with everything I've been. So yeah.
And for you, it's always been music education?
Yeah, always been.
Really?
So
Wow.
I actually started in elementary education.
Okay.
But music always been my passion, and it's always been in my life. So I decided to change to pick music education.
And always been singing?
Oh, yeah.
Or has it
Been
been
singing
playing the bass?
Both actually. But
Yeah.
I've been singing for about 11 years now.
Okay. Good stuff. And were you all in, or did you hesitate when you heard, we might be going on a plane to France?
Yeah. The flying thing is this is my first time getting on a plane.
Okay.
And been having a fear of heights, but actually flying's not too bad. So I was a little hesitant, but I enjoyed.
So you had to get a passport.
Yeah.
Didn't
I
have
all
one
that
of
stuff.
those?
Didn't have any of that.
Okay. And what kind of prep work did you do to get yourself ready for this immersion in an entirely new culture?
Just preparing for the flight was the only thing I really had to do, because I just had to psych myself up like it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be safe. Nothing's gonna happen.
Were you sitting beside Za'Kia?
No, I was
okay.
not.
Okay.
We were all spread apart.
How valuable in retrospect was the trip for you and your professional development and your personal development?
Yeah. And personally, I think it was eye-opening to be where that battle took place for a country that originally we wouldn't had any conflict or fighting for. And it made it more clear what they went through and how important it was.
Did you walk through the Omaha Beach Cemetery? Did you see those
Yeah.
white crosses and Stars of David?
It was very impactful of how many, just Americans in general died during that time to fight for something bigger than themselves.
It's all you can see on all the horizons. It's just the magnitude of sacrifice overwhelms you when you walk across that space. Describe the experience of singing with a large choir for such a momentous anniversary.
It was breathtaking. No words could possibly explain what everything felt like.
Give me some.
Amazing, exciting, or some that come to the mind. It was just
Were you nervous?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah?
Being in a different place and just being beside people who are good at what they do, which is singing, and being able to make music with people who are from different cultures and different backgrounds. It can all come together and make one thing beautiful for people to hear.
Were you able to gauge the reactions of people in the audience?
Yeah, I feel like they all were taken away back, understood the importance of the songs that we were singing, which was the Duraflay Requiem, which was a sadder song because it's a requiem for death, and it just takes them to all that.
What was your favorite part of the trip or the most meaningful place that you visited besides that beach and that landing spot there in Normandy?
I would think it would have to be the church that we sing in, because that was the church in Caen was where we were at. It was one of the churches that withstood all of the bombing and the attacks that was put onto it, and it stood up for that long time, and it's still standing.
Does it give you a passion to learn more about history, or
I've always been a pretty
come back and sign up for some history classes
yeah.
here at Gardner-Webb?
I've always been a pretty big guy into history.
Okay.
It's been one of my favorite things that I take like a hobby of, I guess. But yeah.
Where do you want to go next?
I would like to go to England. That would be pretty cool. Just get over there. I always wanted to go to Rome and Italy. That'd be pretty cool.
How's your foreign language skill set?
Not good.
Yeah?
Not good.
So who ordered for you at restaurants?
My buddy Kevin. He took it upon himself to be pretty good at French.
That's a lot of trust you
Yeah.
placed in him.
I did put a lot of trust in him.
What was your favorite meal that he ordered for you?
To be honest, it was actually a hamburger that we got. They had hamburgers there. It was pretty good. Better than I've had here. So
Americans tend to want the French to cook them more than they tend to do. Was yours cooked well enough?
Yeah, it was cooked about medium well, so it wasn't too bad.
Got through that. What's your dream job?
Dream job? My dream job is to be a high school teacher. That's my dream job. Because high school was...
You're not going to do the middle school route.
Yeah, I can't do middle school. They're too young.
Okay.
They're all in bunches. Elementary school, I thought about it. But high school was my years that I decided to get to know who I was as a person. And those teachers made more of an impact in my life than anyone else did. And I just want to be that for kids in that age.
Ask you the same thing. You going to take your high schoolers one day to study abroad?
Yeah.
Perform abroad?
If I get the chance, I will most definitely do it.
Good. What did you learn about yourself? And this is a bit more philosophical.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you learn about yourself as you thought about all those 18, 19, 20-year-olds who sacrificed their lives in towns whose names they couldn't pronounce? Did that weigh on you? Did you think a bit more broadly about your place in the world?
Yeah, I just felt like the things that they went through were greater than anything that we had to go through at that time. And today, to be in a country that's safe and to be in a world that we don't have to worry about that much anymore, it's just great to know that they did that for us.
Awesome. Your pitch to the prospective student thinking about, where do I get my music education degree in college? Why Gardner-Webb?
Gardner-Webb is an exceptional school. All the teachers get to know you, who you are on a personal level, and it's just like they want to be a part of your life, regardless if it's outside of school or if it's inside of school. They always want you to do great and be great at what you do.
So can you take us to break in French?
No.
Merci beaucoup pour notre entretien. We'll be right back, folks, right after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back to wrap up episode 4 of First Downs. And as we wrap up, I'm reminded of the words from singer-songwriter Billy Joel, who once said, quote, "I think music in itself is healing. It's an explosive expression of humanity. It's something we are all touched by. No matter what culture you're from, everyone loves music." 80 years after one of the greatest military battles in history, we are healed, at least in part, by music. We are touched by music, and we are proud that Gardner-Webb music was part of one of the most important anniversaries in history. My thanks go to Dr. Josh Cheney, to Za'Kia Hamilton, and to Jadon Norman for being my guest today on episode 4 of First Downs. And this has been President Bill Downs. Go make some beautiful music, Gardner-Webb. We'll see you next time.